Hey guys, so before I start my Lean In book review, I just want to point out that I am rocking my Girls Rock Camp ATL shirt that I got from Stacey, the executive director of the program, when I went to hang out in Atlanta with my bestie Ruby, who was performing and volunteering and kind of mentoring some of the girls at the camp. It is an awesome, awesome program for girls 10 to 16, 1 week experience, kind of a musical immersion experience. The girls don't need any previous musical background. They come together. It's about empowerment, creativity, music, and performance. It is like an amazing program, and it was such an honor for me to be able to go there and see the inner workings of it and meet some awesome people. So Stacey, shout out to you. Thanks for having me there, and Ruby Vale did a kick-ass performance as usual, and I know the mentoring went well. So thank you guys so much for the t-shirt. I appreciate it. So on to what we're here for. Lean In. My book review of Lean In. I'll tell you what about some of the highs and lows of the book, what I initially thought. So keep watching and we'll get into it. Okay, so when I was moving to London, my mentor Arden gave me Lean In. And this was at the height, this was back in September, so this was at the height of, of the buzz about the book, maybe a couple months after. And I was interested in the book. I never really picked it up for myself. But to be quite honest with you, it just didn't appeal to me so much. I thought it would probably be kind of the same old that I've always heard. Plus the cover just seemed very conservative, and I didn't resonate with me. I didn't relate to it. And I know everyone says don't judge a book by its cover, so cliche and obviously fitting right here. But I kind of did. I just thought, okay, it's going to be another one of these wah books. I don't really, that's not really going to tell me anything that's awakening, eye-opening, or anything like that. And I knew I was going into my MBA program. I knew I was going to have a ton of academic reading to do. So did I want to, spend my leisure time reading, Lean In, or did I want to read Blink or Tipping Point or something else by Malcolm Gladwell, who I'm obsessed with at present? But, I didn't really take it with me to London. But when I went back on home in June, the end of June, the book was there on my dresser. So I said, all right, I'm going to read it. I'm going to take a couple weeks. I'm going to go ahead and read the book. And I am very, very glad I did. I can't run down every single thing. It was an easy read. It took me like a week and a half to read it, when I had time. So it wasn't anything that was too heavy. But I won't go through every single thing, but I'll tell you some of the chapters that really, really resonated with me. And I have the book here, so that's why I'm looking down. So the first chapter that I really, resonated with me was Sit at the Table. The next one was Success and Likability. Are You My Mentor, which is chapter number 5. And 8, Make Your Partner a Real Partner. So if you get the book and you really only want to read, some of it, definitely try to hit up chapters 2, 3, 5, and 8. And those were the ones that were most impactful to me. Sit at the Table. I remember I used to work in a commercial real estate company, and I used to get to all the meetings early, and the table would be empty. None of the men would be there, and none of the big time brokers, male or females, would be there. And I would be tempted to sit on the side where the majority of the women would sit. And I had a boss one day, both male and female bosses said, if you get here early and the table's not occupied, sit at the table. And so I would find myself, being encouraged to sit at the table, but I would notice majority of the women who were in support roles but still would get there early, would be on time, would be ready for the meeting, they would sit at the perimeter of the table. And I didn't realize how impactful and how meaningful that was until, 1, my bosses told me, sit at the table. And 2, until I read it in this book and found out how commonplace that is for women to kind of take themselves out of the game by sitting on the perimeter, by limiting, their visibility, by limiting their impact, by taking that back seat, and that it was a prevalent thing. So I'm very thankful to my bosses who told me sit at the table, and I'm also thankful that I saw it in this book, and I think you guys should pay attention to that chapter particularly. Because I found it very, very relevant and, very telling. Okay, the second chapter in this book that I thought was really, really pertinent was the chapter number 3. It's called Success and Likability. So it talks about the Howard and Heidi test and how if you paint a picture of someone who the only difference between their credentials and their success story is whether they're male or female. Both males and females generally gravitate and like better the male than they do the female. And this is it's called the Howard and Heidi test. And they talk about it in the book in chapter 3. And it's really, really an eye-opening, awakening concept. I have always felt that people around me felt much more comfortable being around vocal and intelligent males than they did females. And this just kind of made it clear to me. I've been in this MBA program. I've been, in a lot of programs that kind of set you up for success. And it's always been that you are just not treated that well by your female counterparts. And, it's something that you learn to deal with. As you get older, you realize it and you kind of brush it off and you keep moving if you're fortunate to not be that sensitive about it. But just reading it in this book really kind of, one, validated how I felt about it, and two, helped me figure out how to navigate around it. I have to be honest with you. I am disappointed whenever I come across that situation where I feel that, maybe women should be more supportive of each other, and that maybe you're not being supported as you should, even if you do your best to do the same for other women. I do find myself very disappointed whenever I get in those situations, and it's very frequent that I'm actually in those types of situations. But reading about it and kind of understanding the study and the mindset and having the awareness of that Heidi Howard syndrome that is kind of ingrained in our society really kind of opened my eyes to it, one, and made me feel a little bit better about the situation as much as I can, and not take it so personally. And that's what I'm really working on, is not taking things so personally. The 5th chapter is called Are You My Mentor? Now, this resonated with me because it was a mistake that I made, and which was seeing someone that I thought was powerful and that I would love to be mentored by, and not fully getting to know them and asking them to be my mentor before I really found them as an advocate for me. And this book talks about, how, one, it is more difficult for women to find mentors, male and female, and two, why it's important to build relationships before you kind of request someone to be your mentor. So I thought it was a really, really poignant, and had stories and things like that about that, but it really resonated with me because I made that mistake younger in my career, asking folks to be my mentors without fully building a relationship with them, one, or two, really knowing if they would advocate for me the way that I thought, would be good for me. The final chapter that I loved in this book was called Make Your Partner a Real Partner. So this talks about marriage and your husband or your partner, your significant other, and making them not only 50% of the income coming into the house, but 50% of the running of the household. Not having your significant other or your partner as your assistant, but having them take 50% of the accountability for running and managing the home, so that you are able to have a career and have a home life. I know recently the Pepsi CEO, I believe, said, there's no such thing as, being able to be a career woman and being able to, have a good home life or something like that. And I didn't read the article, so I may be misquoting it, but from kind of the dialogue that I saw going on online, that's what I heard of it. This book, Sheryl Sandberg, talks a little bit more about, that might not necessarily be the case. You have more of an ability to take some of the burden off of your shoulders if you make sure that your partner is a true partner. And no, you won't ever feel completely not guilty about not 100% being home, with your children if you decide to have children. But it talks about, the statistics of how children turn out, whether their moms are full-time stay-at-home moms or whether their moms are working moms. And it talks about statistics of how the children are fine, how there's really no reason to feel this immense sense of guilt that a lot of career women feel when it's time to go back to work and balance motherhood and career life. So, that was one of the 8th chapter in the book, and it was one of the ones that I found really, really strong, was making your partner a true partner. There are other really, inspiring, insightful stories and, situations and perspectives in this book, but those were the 4 that, if you had to just pick 4 chapters out of this 11 chapter book, those would be the 4 chapters that I would definitely read. There has been some criticism about the book saying women are that Sheryl is kind of blaming women for the position, for them not being 100% equal with men in the workforce and things like that. But I don't feel that this book took a blaming tone. It was kind of a reflection of, don't take yourself out of the game for fear of whatever, for fear of the future, for fear of not being able to meet up to unrealistic standards. Keep yourself in the game and don't feel guilty about wanting to be a good mother, but also to be a career woman. So I found the book great. I found it a good read. I found it empowering. I read it at the perfect time. I thought I didn't read it right away, but I read it at the perfect time, and it was just so, insightful and really helped me make some career decisions that I needed to make, at the tail end of my MBA. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. Don't be put off by the cover. I know it looks a little conservative. I don't consider myself highly conservative. I don't consider myself highly liberal. But, I just thought, oh, this book does not look like it's for me. But actually, the curb appeal is nah. But actually, the content is really, really there. So if you have the chance, definitely pick it up. Definitely read it. Skim through it at least. There are definitely some tidbits in there that will be helpful to you in your career. The leadership gap. One of the other main things that it talks about is how the feminists of the past, and I don't want to say that this is a feminist manifesto, but there is nothing wrong with being classified as a feminist. Feminist just means that you are for the economic, social, equality of the sexes. And I found that a lot of people have a derogatory or negative understanding of what a feminist is. I even had a woman from a country that's not known to be particularly friendly or equal to women look down her nose at me for classifying myself as a feminist, which she asked me, are you a feminist? And I said, well, I guess so, by the nature of who I am and what I believe, then yeah, I guess I would classify myself as a feminist. And she kind of looked down her nose at me, and I really thought to myself, dear, if I was from where you were from, I probably would not look down my nose at people that are fighting for my rights. And while I didn't say this to her, I definitely thought it in my head. So I wouldn't say, that's it. I wouldn't say that this is a feminist manifesto. It's not really. But one of the poignant things of the book was when she said that the feminists of the past wanted to fight for women to have choices for what they wanted to do, but they didn't realize, I think she said Gloria Steinem said this, but I'm not 100% sure. She said she didn't realize that so many women would then choose to pull themselves out of the workforce, and instead of leaning into their careers and taking up these leadership roles, which, ultimately determine, a lot of different things in society, that instead of them leaning into their careers, that they would take a kind of a more stay-at-home role. So while she says that, there's nothing wrong with that, she wants to encourage women to be just as comfortable staying home as they are, and just as comfortable leaning into their careers as they are staying home if they so choose. So that's kind of the tone of the book. Again, I recommend it. Thank you, Arden, for getting it to me and giving it to me. It was definitely helpful, read cover to cover, and it's definitely recommended. Anyway, if you like this video, oh, I'm sweating and hot, and it's hot in here. It's summer in London. Excuse me. I turned my fan off to do this video, and it's definitely showing. Anyway, if you like this book review, please give this video a thumbs up, share it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you read it, let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you thought were the good parts and the bad parts of the book. If you thought there were any particularly good or particularly bad. And if I read anything else, I'll let you guys know. Right now I'm reading Blink. I've been reading it for a long time. I've not gotten through it. I don't know why, but it's by Gladwell, and I love him. So I'll continue reading it, and if I find anything particularly interesting about it that I want to share with you guys, I'll definitely do a book review on that too. But anyway, happy summer. Thanks so much for listening. Bye, guys.